World Cup behind that. Anyway, all right. We're just going to switch gears into some football talk now, and we're bringing in live Dujunnea Bland of the Breakdown and DC's People's Champ of the No Spots podcast. And so we're going to start with you, Dujunnea. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, man?
I'm doing okay. I can't believe it. 6 out of 7. This is I like this Victory Mondays. We've gotten a bunch of them recently, and it feels good. And especially not to play down, I think, to a team that we could overlook. We were talked about that a little bit last week about how we needed them not to do that. And it was a close game, but Atlanta's a good team. Like all the teams in the NFL are good teams. All of them could win any given week. I mean, look at the Jacksonville Ravens game, right? I don't think you can count any team out and say it's a surefire win. And, crazy stuff happens throughout the NFL, but it was really a good one. We're also going to bring in Champ. How are you doing tonight, Champ?
Feeling good. I had to wear my Sean Taylor jersey since they did the reveal of his tribute this past weekend on the 50th anniversary of his tragic passing. So I had to do my tribute to one of the greatest safeties in the NFL.
Yeah. Casey's heading off. I want to thank Titan Rising KM and give him a quick little shout out and go check out his Pokemon coverage over on Twitch on Titan Rising KM. He's a big time Commanders fan as well. So, but yeah, it's I was conflicted about the memorial. We'll talk about it real quickly. Sean Taylor is one of my favorite players. I went to college in Philly. The day after he passed, I was wearing 21. I still got shit from Eagles fans. I will never let that go. Just because how to be so heartless, but he was one of my favorite players. We've talked about it before on the show that, it really kind of decimated this team for a couple of years, set us back a long way because he could have been a changer. He could have taken that defense to the next level for years. And he was such an incredible player. When it was first revealed, I was like, I don't know. I see what people are saying. It's like a mannequin, whatever. I am an art major. I understand art comes in a million different sizes and shapes. And, what one person might love, another person might not like. My big concern was, what does the family think? Right? The family's cool with it. They think that's fine, that they're happy with it. They've signed off. It's their blessing because it's for the family first, for the fans second, right? Care less what the fans think. The family's cool with it. It's good. And it wasn't being reported what the family was thinking about it until Seawall did, and credit to her. She wrote a whole thing and she, backed it up. And I really appreciate her for, putting it out there that the family's good by it. If the family's good, I'm good. Because having a busk or a heavy statue that they move to a new stadium in 3 years probably doesn't make a lot of sense. Right. They never said that it was going to be a busk. People assumed it was going to be a typical statue, but just because people read statue and thought a certain thing doesn't mean that's the way they were going to go. So I'm fine with it. I'm happy that they have something for him. It wouldn't have been the way that I went with the design. We'll put it that way, but I'm not upset, and I'm happy that the family's happy, and I'm happy that they did him proud by winning this game. Dujunnea, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I had similar feelings about it. My teammate Creeder Parks had said the same thing about the family being okay with it. And if the family's okay with it, then I'm okay with it. I'm not going to be overly critical about it. That's really who it matters for anyway. And, we just have to respect that. So, it's not my design, not where I would have gone. But if the family's cool, then, hey, then I guess we're cool with it.
Yeah, because people were like, and I love how Cowboys fans and other teams fans were chiming in.
Like, I know. They did him wrong. They did him wrong. Too. Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, what? You don't really get a say in this. Like, I don't know. Like, you can jump on all you want. We don't care what you think. Right. Exactly. I don't know how to break that down any, simpler for them. But I care what the family thinks first. They obviously were brought into it in some fashion. I know that their first look at it was the same with it, but I'm sure that it wasn't like they were blindsided by it and knew nothing. I'm sure they had conversations before it was released. It would seem irresponsible to, especially if you're going to do something out of the box like that. I don't think you're going to blindside the family like that. That's just not a good move. And So anyway, but rest in peace, Sean Taylor. I'm happy that they had a good game for him. And Champ, what are your thoughts?
There's an old saying. It goes like this: when you assume something, you make an ass out of yourself. And that's basically what a lot of fans did. They assumed it was going to be something, and now they look like asses because it's not what they think, and they're getting mad about it. I think that everybody's made this general consensus. If the family is fine with the way that the team tributed one of their best defensive players, then why in the hell are fans complaining? Shut up and go complain about something else. That's the problem with this fan base that I am ashamed to be a part of.
Right? We're winning with 6 of 7.
And that's the problem, Robbie. And that's why I hate being a part of this fan base, because they look for something to complain about. We just got a big victory to go to 6 of the last 7, and they're complaining about a tribute to one of the greatest players of this team. Yeah. Why can't y'all be happy for once? Shut the F up and be happy. Christ.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
But that's this fan base, though.
Dujunnea, I got to refill my water because people did a water redeem, but you break down your initial thoughts on the Atlanta game. I'll be listening in, but and then I'll give my take right afterwards.
Yeah, they were a little flat defensively. I thought this is a good test, though. You got a running back that's really shifty, very quick to the outside. Knows how to cut it back inside, and they did a lot of misdirection, a lot of things, including the quarterback and Mariota's ability to run the football. And I thought Atlanta did a good job with that. I thought the defense missed on some opportunities, but the thing of it was they were scrappy. They never allowed the mistakes that they made to really get into their head and mess up their psyche. They kept fighting along the way. I only gripe I have as far as offensively is it is what it is with Taylor Heinicke. But when you throw that pass over the middle, I mean, there's no justifying that. Nobody was there. It was double covered. There was no way you were getting that over, either one of those guys, the back or the front. So I don't know where he was going and what he was thinking in that moment, but that's the only gripe I have offensively. I thought, again, the game plan is to run the football, play action, and do things off of that. This is where this team thrives and does an excellent job. And it seems like Brian Robinson had a little bit of a breakout game this game with being able to kind of bounce things outside, something we hadn't seen him do a lot of. He likes to run in between the tackles, likes to run in between the guard and the tackle there. But he was able to do some misdirection. They had some counters where he came inside, bounced it completely outside, and it was able to create some big runs. And this is where this team is absolutely successful on offense. I think with the way the defense is playing, you can kind of it can afford you to have at least one mistake from Taylor Heinicke, because at the end of the day, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And sometimes it may never happen, but you do know with him that you're going to get a moment where you're like, what was that, my guy? Like, what were you thinking there? This was a very evenly matched game. Atlanta was getting 6 yards a game per plays, and Washington was 5.2. But I think you give a tip of the hat to the defense. They came through when it mattered. It wasn't looking very good. They were moving the ball pretty well. But at the end of the day, when it came down to it, they were able to get that big interception. Again, something we haven't seen over the last couple of weeks, guys getting their hands up and trying to get a hand on the ball. That's something you didn't see earlier in the season. So there's a lot of good things. This is a scrappy win. This is where a team continues to fight, stays scrappy, and gets after it. This is where we are with this football team. So you'll take them how you can get them. And right now, this team's 7-5 and in the thick of things when you're talking about the playoff race. So, we can see 4 NFC East teams go to the playoffs. That's wild. This NFC East is very, very tough. And they got two tough games coming up. Weird to me that you play the same team in 3 weeks, but it is what it is, and this is where we are. And I think they got a really good shot to beat a Giants team that's starting to flounder a little bit, or we could say kind of show their true colors. So we'll see, but it's going to be interesting. But it was a great game this weekend, a scrappy win, and you'll take them how you can get them.
I want to talk about the game flow for just a second, which I never show stats during the football segment, but there's no reason not to. Let me see if I can get this to look right. There you go. So they started with a field goal against a big touchdown, a really great run. I love the heavy run in there. Then just a couple minutes later in the first quarter, a great answer they drove on us, but I thought that they stopped them at the field goal, and then to drive and get a touchdown was important. Unfortunately, they came back and they really drove on us again. They scored a touchdown, and then we got a big field goal, I thought, at the end of the second quarter. A simple 30-yard field goal from Joey Sly, but every point matters in a close game like this. And then in the third quarter, a big touchdown, a great pass. I was frustrated that they missed the kick because I was having these dreams that, oh God, if they score a touchdown and we lose by 1 point, I was not going to be happy with that. They come down and score a field goal, so I'm happy they were able to hold them to a field goal when they were driving once again. But then in the fourth quarter, I think it was a big field goal to answer them, just to keep it at sort of like you couldn't tie it with a field goal. But then at the very end, they got all the way down to the goal, to the red zone. And I thought that it was going to be a touchdown pass, and we were going to lose this game by 1 point. And I'm so happy that we came away with that interception at a key time, and we're able to win that game. But it's a very close game. And, it's a game of inches, as they say, and we needed every last inch in that game. I'm going to get Champ's thoughts about the other one, about this game in a second, but I want to be conscious of Dujunea's time. I do want you to get your thoughts on playing the Giants, back-to-back weeks. And what are your thoughts on the Giants, especially because they had that loss to the Cowboys, but they did cover the spread, so that was not maybe as bad as some people thought. But
right,
what are your thoughts?
It's going to be interesting because 2 out of the 3 weeks when you have in between your bye, you play the same team. So the big thing is how much you're going to show in the first game, because you have to come back again after your bye week. You at least have to have some new wrinkles in there somewhere.
You also have 2 weeks to try to change stuff up too. I mean,
exactly, but we're talking about inside the division, and you're talking about playing the team twice in 3 weeks. It's difficult. I mean, you have time to change it up. I have a trust thing with Scott Turner here, so you got to prove it to me, and we haven't seen that yet. So that's where the interesting part is going to be. I think I picked them, I believe, before the season started to sweep the Giants anyway. I think they can do that, but the biggest question, we all know that they don't play very well in New York. Haven't done that in some time. So that's going to be a question mark. I do believe they can beat them at home. But it's like, what, as a play caller, what are you going to need to do? Because you can't show your whole entire hand, or you have to be creative in both games, because you can't come out and run the same thing you run the first game and the second game and expect that they not completely hone in on what you're doing and shut you down or stifle you offensively. So you have to be creative in assistance. It's a unique thing, right? I mean, you're playing a team twice in 3 weeks. Like, how many times has this happened? So
funny enough, I think it happened last year when we had to play all the same teams in a row. Remember, we had to play like 5 divisional games to end the season.
Right.
It must have happened last year with at least the Eagles, if not the Giants. But no, it's never twice in a row. But
it's close.
It's a lot of them though in a short period of time.
It's going to be interesting. I really believe they can sweep them. Like I said, it's just going to come down to coaching, and I'm going to need Scott Turner. This is where he's going to really shine here. He's either going to shine, or he's going to fall flat on his face into a pile of big cow dung. He's going to have to scheme up some stuff that's going to have some new wrinkles that can throw them off in that next week. because you really could come in and do what you've been doing in this next game and be fine. But you're not going to do that again. There's no way you're going to do that again. Not against this team. I believe the Giants are well coached. They're a well coached football team. I don't think they have the talent. I think they outplay a lot of teams just on grit and execution, not because of talent. So, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. The chess match between these two coaches, because, let's not forget the Giants have to do the same thing. It's going to be the chess match between these two coaches and their staffs, especially on the offensive side, is really going to be interesting to watch. But I got Washington being able to take both of them.
Right. I'm just giving a quick little update based on our picks on whether they're doing a better or worse than what we thought they'd be doing at this part in the season. Because it's kind of interesting to look at. You did have them sweeping the Giants, and you actually had them at 10 wins. And if they were to sweep the last 5, which is what you originally predicted, they'd actually be doing better than your prediction of 10 wins. So they only have to win 3 out of their last 5 to hit your 10 that you had picked. CP3 had 11 wins, and he only had them winning 3 out of the last 5. So then he would be just under that. I only had him winning 8, right? So they only have to win 1 more. Yeah, but so I'm hoping that I'm wrong in this thing. Champ also had 11 and 6. I will point out that Hurt had 12 and 5. He was a real true believer. Benson is out. He had 5 wins. We've already done better than that. Tim he had 7 wins. If we lose out, then he might be right. He actually had us losing 4 out of the last 5 to go to that. So it's just interesting. Rune's already out. He only had 5 wins as well. My dad is out. He only had 6 wins. Sith had 10 wins as well. So just wanted to give a little bit of a sense of where it's at. It's just interesting to see. A couple people had us sweeping. Champ and Dujunnea, you both had us sweeping, and so did Hurt, these 2 New York games, and so did Sith. So I hope the 3 of you guys are right in that, because that would go a long way to your 10-win prediction, because we only have 2 road games left. It's this next game at the Giants, and then 1 at San Francisco. That's brutal. I mean, it's fun. Everyone had it as a loss except for you, Dujunnea, before the season. You probably reconsider that one and now and looking back, but we didn't know that.
You know what?
You think we could win in San Francisco?
I do, and here's why. First of all, we've seen them. It's one thing we haven't been able to see is them play well at home, but we all know that they can go on the road and they seem to play better than they play at home. Now they're starting to put that together on both sides of the ball. Like at home, defense wasn't superb, but it was scrappy enough to be able to come away. They made plays when they had to, and when their backs were against the wall. It's one thing about the 49ers. Yes, McCaffrey is there, and that's all fine and good, but it's Jimmy Garoppolo at the end of the day. And this defense has been getting after quarterbacks. They've been pushing the pocket. They've been collapsing the pocket. Yes, sometimes the coverage isn't there and they make some plays. But if I'm betting on Taylor Heinicke at the end of the day with the formula they're using on offense, really bodes well for them because they're taking a lot of time off the clock. I mean, we look at the time of possession. They had 33:09 yesterday. And I think over the last couple of games, they've been in the 30s or better in time of possession. So when you look at that, yes, it's in San Francisco, but San Francisco isn't Kansas City or it ain't even Dallas. You know what I'm saying? Like you can take these fans out of this game, and again, it's Jimmy Garoppolo. You're not facing somebody that I'm fearful of. This defense up front can get after it, and with the formula on offense, there's definitely a better chance that they could win with the way they've been playing than them losing.
Hopefully Anna stopped listening to the show because otherwise she'd be crying right now. No,
Sorry.
But no, it's all good. I'm with you, and I hope that you're right, and I hope that you are correct with this run the table over the last 5 games, and they would actually end up doing better than your prediction when you thought they were going to do that, because you thought they'd have a slow start, which they did, but they didn't have as slow a start. So
right, yeah.
And so we'll see how this goes. But it's been fun. I'll let you go because I'm going to let you go a little bit early. But Dujunnea, let people know where they can catch any of your latest things you want to share with the group.
Well, again, we still got the NHRA show up, talking to the champ. So you can check that out on the breakdown. I am pseudo off this week. We may have a show talking a little football here later in the week. But yeah, you can talk to me on Twitter at NotBland21. Always love talking shop with you guys. And yeah, thanks for listening, and thanks for having me on, Robbie.
Yeah, of course. I love having you on, Dujunnea, and hopefully we'll have you on next week to preview the Giants game, and then we'll take a week off for the bye week, and then the last game is actually on the 18th, and we're actually not doing a podcast then. So now that I think about it, I think next week might be your last show before I would take a 3-week winter break. Just so people know, if they're just tuning in for the football segment, I will be taking off the 19th, the 26th, and the 2nd because I'm going to be out of the country. So I'm excited about that. Take 2 weeks with my family. I also think that starting on the 2nd, where I haven't watched any football for 2 weeks or any sports, is probably not the play. So I will, talk the following week there. But what's kind of cool is it goes that far into January. So on that 9th, Dujunnea, you can break down the Dallas game and and a little bit of how they went over the last couple of weeks and where they end up, and if there's a playoff picture to be discussed at that point. So
Right.
that'll be a fun first one of what I'll call the winter session. And look forward to talking to you next week about this Giants game. Hopefully we keep the winning streak going. Either way, I look forward to talking to him.
Yeah.
So, have a great night, and
You
we'll
too,
talk
brother.
soon.
All right,
All
brother.
right. Dujunnea, real quickly, let's break down your thoughts on this game and your thoughts of the Giants upcoming.
Right. So Washington defensively, it wasn't the spectacular play that we've been seeing in the last several games. They only had the one takeaway, but it came at a very, very critical time towards the end of the game as Atlanta was driving to try to take the lead late in the game. They managed to only get to Mariota get one sack. But I think the big highlight here was the run game. And Brian Robinson, in only his 9th game of his NFL career, getting his first career 100-yard rushing game, as well as his first receiving touchdown. He had 2 receptions for 20 yards with that touchdown. That was the first touchdown of the game. Very, very great effort from him. Gibson also did well rushing the ball. Washington had 176 yards rushing to 167 for Atlanta. So it was running was the predicate move here for both teams because it was raining all day. It was nasty. It was chilly. So running the ball had to be at a premium for both teams, and they showed it with having great, really good rushing yardage from their running backs, and the passing yardage was noticeably low because of the fact that, yes, the rain affected the passing game. But the one key thing that was very important was the third down efficiency, whereas the Commanders were almost like 42% on third down, 5 of 12, whereas the Falcons were 40%. So they were managing to get off the field, get the defense off the field a little bit more quickly than otherwise. So all in all, this was a really good game. And again, Washington also, once again, when they win, it's because they keep the ball for a long time. They held onto the ball for 33 minutes and 9 seconds. So when you dominate time of possession and you're keeping the opposing offense off the field and you're giving your defense that much more rest to just sit and wait, and then they can get out there and get after it, that's a big recipe for success. Dujunnea said it earlier, the interception that Heineke threw, you can't excuse that. Like, he literally threw into a crowd. Like, hell, I'm a 40-year-old out of shape father, and I could have made a better throw than that. But Heineke threw literally with little to no air into like 2 to 3 defenders in the middle of the field. Like, that's a recipe for disaster right off the bat. But either way, it still was a big win for Washington because now it gives them an edge in case it comes down to Atlanta and Washington for that final playoff spot later in the season. They'll have that tiebreaker, and that'll be the most important key to getting them into the playoffs, where who would have thought we'd be talking about possibly making the playoffs after the start that we had?
Yeah, I know. Well, I guess Dujunnea thought so, and you did, I guess, too, because you both thought that we would have a hot second season. So, give your guys some credit here. You both, well, the three of you, Dujunnea, Hurt, and Champ, all had 4 wins from Houston to the end of the Giants, which would be a big thing. Now, we still have 2 of those games upcoming, but you thought we would come in strong. Just maybe it's a little earlier, but maybe you're still dead on. So it's very exciting. I'm hopeful that we could beat the Giants. Winning in New York is always tough. I do love that we've got a bit of a break between them, while they've got a very tough game in between. I believe they play the Eagles, or is it the Cowboys? They play one of them in the week in between. And let's see. I have it pulled up here. They would play Philadelphia in between. Right. So
and Philly is scary. Philly is scary. They just had their record for most rushing yards as a team in a game, and Jalen Hurts had the record for most rushing yards by a quarterback in a game over Mike freaking Vick. I'm glad we're done playing that team. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I am too. What a crazy division. But a lot of exciting stuff to break down. I'm just checking over here to see. I know that we got Tim on the line. I don't know if Arun is going to be able to join us. I did say originally 10:30 that we would switch over, but we might go a little bit early because I see that Tim is on.
Let's talk about the Giants game. Just give him some time.
Okay, that's fair.
Let's talk about the Giants game.
What are you excited to talk about in this game? Do you think?
Okay.
First of all, let's talk about time of possession. I know that's been our dominant thing the last couple of weeks. Do you think we can get up against this Giants team?
I think that we can definitely have time of possession against this Giants team, honestly, because again, running the ball has started to become second nature here. Brian Robinson Jr. is starting to find his stride. It took him a couple of games, and now he's really starting to, stride. He's either going between the tackles, or as Dujunnea said, he's bouncing to the outside, and it's just really, really good to see him. And then, of course, you have the change of pace, not really a change of pace, but you have Antonio Gibson, and then you have Williams as well, who's a dynamic third down back as well. So it's really good that you have 3 really talented running backs that can help you to grind it out, keep time of possession, keep the ball out of Danny Dimes in that offense's hands, and to really give your defense a lot of rest on the sideline, especially if they have to deal with Saquon Barkley and having to stop him. You definitely want to let your defense have as much time on the sidelines to rest, to get ready, and to be ready for if the Giants decide they're going to try to grind it out with Saquon Barkley. Right now, Saquon Barkley is 8 yards away from another 1,000-yard season. From a 1,000-yard season, so that's going to be the main focus, is to stop him, because they don't really have a passing offense. Honestly, they don't have a strong enough passing offense, and you know that your secondary is not the strongest either. So you want to be able to stop their primary weapon, which is Saquon Barkley, and neutralize Daniel Jones and get to the quarterback. 1 sack against Mariota, who's very mobile, against Danny Dimes, who, last time I seen him be really mobile, he tripped over his own feet before he got into the end zone. So I don't think it's going to be hard to keep him in the pocket and really tee off on him. So honestly, it's going to be interesting, because this is a weird scheduling thing, as Dujunnea mentioned earlier. You're playing them in their stadium.
I'm happy it's this way, though, not the other way around. I'd rather play them there first. I'm going to say we're probably going to lose, and we won a lot in a row. But then we got the 2 weeks to sit on it with the bye and the revenge factor at home, and then we win and we can build on it. But either way, I think I'd rather it this way than play at home first.
That is. I mean, I see where you're coming from, and I mean, honestly, this team has played semi decently on the road. but it's going to be interesting to see what they do in New York, and then have to sit on it if they do lose, and then have to come back at home. It'll be interesting to see how they respond to it. I think that they win on the road. They're just really, really on a roll here, as they're going to have this, time of possession, running the football, and limiting mistakes of Taylor Heineke, and then come back after 2 weeks and definitely come out with a different look to their offense and different play calling, as Dujunnea mentioned earlier, because you don't want to show the same playbook, the same script in the home game that you showed in the road game, because then they're going to be like, oh, we're ready for this. We got this. And then they come into your house and they just own you.
Or play off it, like pretend that it's the same thing, but do like a like, they do a lot of this trickeration with the run plays. Like you could set them up by, calling it one way in the first game, and they're like, oh, we've seen this play, and then, run a counter to it or something,
Right.
You could maybe use that against them possibly too, if you planned it right.
Yeah, that's true. But it's interesting that the last divisional game will be on the last game of the season. Like all of our division games are pretty much out of the way right now, except for the Cowboys after we play the Giants over these next 3 weeks. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
The Browns are up and down team. The 49ers are dangerous, and we're fighting them for one of those spots, whether or not they're a division leader or if they end up being the wild card. So a lot of interesting football coming up.
I'm not really worried about the Browns until I see what Deshaun Watson does when he returns next week. When I see what he does, then I'll worry about the Browns. Right now, I'm not worried about the Browns.
I know, but they're one of those teams that, like, on weeks you don't worry about the Browns, they show up, right? So it's just like, I don't know, like I was talking before with Dujunnea, like any team, any week, I didn't think Jacksonville was going to pull it off against the Ravens, and they sure as hell did, what a crazy call. I didn't know that the shin counts as 2 feet. So I learned something in that game. like I thought it was like knee and up, like knee, something, thigh. I had no idea that like the leg between the ankle and the knee counts as 2. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. But I think I heard some some analysis say like any body part in is like in or something like that. I guess
above the ankle.
Yeah. So
it's interesting. I just never what I mean? Like, so even I'm learning new rules, and I've been watching this a long time. My dad was convinced it wasn't. He was like, he doesn't have 2 feet. He doesn't have a knee. I'm like, I'm with you. We were watching the game together. I don't really understand why they're not. And then they came on and explained that like just the shin is enough. So if you roll your leg a certain way, which is hard to get your shin inbounds before some other body part. Like, it's not an easy thing to do, but he did, and they ended up winning the game because of it. But it's going to be a tough one. I'm excited for the division rival. I hope that we can finally win in New York, and hopefully we see some of what Dallas did correctly against the Giants and find a way to implement that. But I think, going back to what I was saying earlier, time of possession is the reason why we've been doing so well the last couple of weeks. And I think that is going to be the difference maker in this. If we can control the time of possession, I think we can win the game. So we just got to keep that in mind and continue to run it and wear them down and keep our defense fresh. And then they can come and make these big stands where they get pushed around a little bit, but they hold on to field goals. And that's how we won these games. So I think it's a recipe for success, and hopefully we have some. So I see that the rest of our basketball roundtable is on, so I'm going to switch over to that while they jump on in. Champ, any final football thoughts before we switch over?
Honestly, like, this was a very, very wild week in football. I mean, Vegas have been struggling. The Raiders have been struggling. And then in overtime, Jacobs out of nowhere, 86 yards to end the game. Like, that was an insane run. Tom Brady is still not as good as he was, but still managed to bring his team back to almost beat Cleveland, but Cleveland was able to pull it out. I mean, just a lot of wild results this week. And I'm just happy that the Commanders are on such a run that they are 6 of the last 7. Like, they could really they really have an opportunity to make the playoffs here, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Tim. I see Tim has joined us about your Ravens. It was a tough loss. Both games for about the same time, although there was a lightning delay. So that made the fourth quarter happen about 45 minutes after the Commanders, which was good for me because I can have them on the big screen. But unfortunate, a little bit of a collapse. They do play the Broncos next, who have lost 3 in a row, and I hope that they're able to make it 4 in a row. The game is at Baltimore, and the Ravens are currently favored by 8 in it. So I'm hoping that they do well in that game and take command of that division. But Tim, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty well. Recovering from that Ravens collapse with Porzingis career night. So at least something good happened.
Nice. Yeah, I will.
He played great.
Yeah, for sure.